Welcome to Catch of the Day. Question number one today is from Chris Foley. It's, out of all the weather conditions, which would you choose for the best fishing? Usually, and this sounds like, but it's very, very true, I can't really change it. The better the weather, the worse the fishing. If you really wanted to know the best fishing. The best fishing days are the days that most humans, unless you're a fanatic bass fisherman, don't want to be out. Windy, rainy, sometimes stormy, but you got to be careful there. I've used up all my lightning free passes, so I really kind of avoid bad storms at time to have lightning. So, but they're the best. Fish become more active. Most people have been in the outdoors know, really it's just like wildlife becomes more active. My birds at my bird feeder get more active when bad weather's coming. So it's just something they know they better be prepared for, and they better get some food. Let me look at this one. Brian's 4488. This is I kind of like this question because I understand what he's talking about. It says, I miss the Virgin River for y'all's in high water. He's talking about Lake Mead. Lake Mead is fed by two rivers. The giant one is Colorado. The smaller one is Virgin River. And he misses it because the lake has been so low you can't get up into it anymore. It's dry. And but anyway, he says, I miss the Virgin River and high water. I didn't really get to fish Mead until the second round of high water in the mid-90s. How did you manage the gas issue when you made the run from Colville Bay to the lower Grand Canyon? Did those 5-pounders come out of willow trees by chance? That year, yes, the final day I caught my 2 5-pounders and the big bag of the tournament up in the lower part of the Grand Canyon. Gary Klein and I had entertained the idea of leaving 6-gallon tanks up there, which nowadays in a lot of tournaments is not legal. But we had gone up there in practice and we decided to run it from Colville Bay. And we did take a extra 6-gallon tank with us. And we ran until we got up into lower Colorado, where you're just into the muddy river. There's a few side creeks now because it was the highest the lake had ever been. The lake had never been that full, and that's the only reason we could get up there. That was the first time the lake had ever been full. This was 1988, I think. And no, anyway, I don't know what year it was. but still, we determined, go to this point, and you can barely make it back to Colville Bay. So we didn't take any extra gas, but we did test it out. And we knew we couldn't run as fast as we normally do because we'd burn gas. So we'd run at a speed that we thought was fairly economical. You said something about the gas issue, but the 5-pounders, you said, did they come out of willow trees? No, they come out of what we call salt cedars. And back when I went, I didn't go up there until the very last day, and that was a 4-day event in the U.S. Open. And I was about 8 pounds behind, which is a good catch, much less be behind that far, a Reno Pelletier. And anyway, but Gary and I, when we had gone up there in practice, we saw some really quality fish. There was one cove that had a sandbar kind of across the mouth of it that we knew the only way we can get in, we waded into that cove in practice. The water was coming out of the Colorado, out of Lake Powell, and it was ice cold, froze my feet off. And that's when we could see these fish back in there. So we said, well, can we do it? And we said, we've done it before. We can run and jump that sandbar. It had probably, 6 inches of water over the top of it. And we can hit it at high speed and jump it. And when the final day, I decided I got to catch some big fish, so I ran up there. And the water had dropped 6 inches. There was no water left on the sandbar. So I started, all the other side pockets that to go in were muddy. just like the river. Except I could look in the back, and I went in 2 of them to see if I could find a little bit of clear water. And I looked in the back, and there was dragonfly, bass jumping, little bass jumping out of these salt cedars at dragonflies. And then when I got in the back, I could see that I could see fish suspended in these salt cedars, but you could just barely see the black part of their back, about that deep. And so I started pitching a worm into the salt cedars, and these bass wouldn't let it get to the water. They'd jump up and grab a hold of it, and they'd come off. And I went, crap, this ain't working. So the next catch, I was fishing a 6-inch gator tail, pitched it past the salt cedar. I could see 2 big ones, but I thought they were carp. They weren't too dang big in this bush. And I just swam it by, it's on top by the little salt cedar. And both of the fish went, and one of them ate it, and it was a 5-pounder. So that's what I did the rest of the day. I just ran it. In the very back, the water had a tiny bit of clarity, but normally you wouldn't think it was if you couldn't see these fish suspended in the bushes. And that's the way I ended up catching both the 5-pounders. Never done it since.
Next question.
Oh, that was fun. Yeah, I was enjoying myself there. Have you ever been on a lake that you just couldn't get a pattern on and find fish at all? How did you handle it? Probably the best classic I ever fished. It was on the Ohio River in Ohio. And it's a river, and it wasn't a good river. And that's why I've always said, anybody from Ohio, I know the type of water they get to fish. If they can catch fish in Ohio, they can catch them anywhere. Billy Lowen's a good example of that. But yes, there I couldn't get on a pattern. I could catch a fish, but I couldn't duplicate it. But I ended up mentally fishing the best classic I've ever fished, even though I didn't win it. I ended up second. And I was just starting to quit thinking, just fish whatever you can look at, and fished several different baits on it. And so yes, there's times when you just got to bear down and fish. And, you stay with what you know where they should be, even though you could never catch one off a log. You can get by, fish 20 more logs, never get a bite. Catch one off a rocky point, fish 20 more rocky points, never get a bite. That couldn't duplicate how you were catching them. So you had to fish everything. Bobby Colson. What part of your experience on the water helps with forward facing? What part of your experience on the water helps with forward facing? They say you can throw all you have known out the window now, but I don't believe that. Some of the best guys I noticed start looking guided by structure, and I'm not sure what this means here, but they don't really talk about it. There has not got to be more than pulling out in the middle of the lake and dropping a troll motor. What he's saying is, and it is kind of happening now, everybody's starting to think, well, I can't fish the way I used to and have a chance of winning. And there's situations where that's very true now with forward facing. But there's some positive things you should really take in mind there, is that there are exceptions even to forward facing. And let me say one thing about forward facing, where he says, you just pull out in the middle of the lake and drop your troll motor. What I've learned about forward facing is that you're still fishing the same stuff you'd used to fish. Points, river channel bends, things like that. They're just out deeper on those things, a lot deeper. But it's not like you're just running out there. The only exception to just running out and dropping the troll motor in the middle of the lake is bait fish. Let the bait fish tell you, these other spots. Otherwise, fish the same areas you used to fish, just fish them out deeper. And at the same time, I don't think you need to throw away everything that you learned in the past. I don't want to do that. And first of all, there's still certain events you can win. Not right now, there's not as many, but there's certain events you can win certain times of the year in certain lakes. And the old techniques are still very valid. And the one thing you got to remember about the old techniques, that a lot of the forward-facing guys, it's what makes them good at the forward-facing. have a 6, 7, 8 fish mentality. Don't have a 10 fish mentality, a 20 fish mentality. What I mean by that is when I came from Toledo Bend and Rayburn, originally in Bass Club days had 15 fish limits. And then all of a sudden they went to 10 fish, and then BASS went to 7, and then they went to 5. What you learn then is that when D. Thomas came in and flipping, and he showed he could beat us, even though I could catch 25 fish a day, he'd catch 5, but he was catching the right ones. He had what I call a 5 fish mentality. And that's what you have to have now when you go to the bank and do the things you used to do is, you know, if you're flipping, if you're using big deep crankbaits, don't expect to catch a lot. I know you're thinking about that, all those 10 boats sitting out in the middle of the lake, they're catching them like crazy, and sometimes they are. But even the best guys out there are learning that these fish are getting wise. And some days you only see 7, 8, 9 of the right fish out there. Even though you're seeing a lot of fish, you're only seeing 7 or 8 of the right. So they have to somewhat have that same 5 fish mentality. So that would be my advice. Joshua Murphy, how to win tournaments from a fish management standpoint. We know that a lot of times it takes a kicker fish to win. What would be the best answer for the way tournaments are today? I think I kind of almost answered that one a little bit with the one I just answered. It is having the right fish mentality. It's having, in other words, don't have too high of expectations is another way of saying that when it goes out there, oh, I want to catch one every cast. That don't happen very often. So have the right attitude, the right fish mentality when you're going out there a day that's realistic. And fish management is really important in practice, that you don't get on something you don't keep. Obviously, you don't. We all are tempted to catch, I'll make one more cast there before I leave. So that's important, especially with one-day tournament guys. They don't fish manage. Multi-tournament day guys manage fish more because they have to. They're fishing 2, 3, sometimes 4-day events. And you're fishing the same fish. You are fishing the same fish, hopefully nobody else. So then you got to know, okay, I thought I could get 15 pounds off the fish. I've got it. Get out of here. You know, wait for tomorrow. Go look for more fish for the next 2 or 3 days. So it's a tough deal. It's when to stay, when to go.